Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! As the familiar melody of the doorbell broke the tranquil ambiance, Marley, once known as Abraham, stood tall, embracing a newfound confidence. Marley's transformation was a meticulous affair. With expert hands, Marley had crafted an exquisite face, accentuating the natural contours and highlighting features typically hidden. The pearl necklace, a perfect complement to the white lace attire, rested gracefully, providing a soothing sensation. The dress, cascading gently over Marley's frame, created an ethereal image. Weeks of mastering the art of walking in the dainty kitten heels had paid off, each stride now exuding elegance. The persistent doorbell intruded again, slicing through the silence. She took a deep breath, her fingers instinctively reaching up to touch the pearl necklace that had once belonged to her grandmother. A third ring, followed by a familiar voice. "Abraham, are you home? We know you're in there. Your car's outside." It was her mother's voice, and with sudden clarity, Marley remembered. Today was her father's birthday, and the family had mentioned something about stopping by before dinner. How could she have forgotten? For a split second, Marley considered dashing upstairs, ripping off the dress, scrubbing away the makeup, becoming Abraham again. But something stopped her. A thought crystallized. How long would she continue hiding? How many more years of being half alive? With resolve settling into her bones, Marley straightened her spine, adjusted her jade earrings, and walked toward the door, each step in the kitten heels more confident than the last. The doorknob felt cool against her palm. She turned it, opening the door to reveal her entire family, mother, father, younger brother, and, standing slightly behind them, Catherine, her ex-girlfriend. Time seemed to suspend itself as 4 pairs of eyes widened simultaneously, taking in the white lace dress, the pearl necklace, the carefully applied makeup, and the styled blonde hair that now fell in soft waves to Marley's shoulders. Her father's mouth opened and closed without sound. Her mother's hand flew to her chest. Her brother stared unblinkingly, but it was Catherine whose reaction broke the silence. She started laughing. Not a cruel laugh, but a sound of genuine amusement and perhaps something else. Recognition. "I knew it," Catherine said, stepping forward past the stunned family members. "I found lipstick in your car once, and those women's boots in the back of your closet." She tilted her head, studying Marley's face. "You look beautiful, by the way." Marley felt heat rising to her cheeks. Thank you. I didn't expect company today." "Clearly," her father finally managed, his voice scratchy. "Abraham," her mother whispered. "What is this?" "It's Marley, actually," she replied, the name feeling right on her lips, especially now as she stood in the doorway, refusing to hide. "And this is me, the real me." "We came to surprise you," her brother said, recovering enough to speak. "Dad's birthday dinner, remember? And Catherine's been asking about you, so we thought... You thought you'd set us up again." Marley completed his sentence. Catherine smiled, her eyes twinkling with unexpected understanding. "Seems I've been barking up the wrong tree." "Would you all like to come in?" Marley asked, stepping aside, her baby blue heels clicking against the hardwood floor of the entryway. "I can make coffee." They followed her inside, a procession of confusion and bewilderment. Her father kept staring at the pearl necklace, perhaps recognizing it from his mother's collection. Her mother's eyes were locked on the jade earrings, a gift from an aunt years ago that Abraham had claimed were lost. Those earrings match your eyes, her mother said suddenly, breaking the heavy silence as they gathered awkwardly in the living room. I always thought they were too feminine for a man, but now they're perfect, Marley finished, touching one earring gently. How long? Her father asked, his voice strained but not unkind. Always, Marley answered simply. I've always known, but I didn't have the words for it until college, and I didn't have the courage to act on it until recently. Is this why you and Catherine... Her mother left the question hanging. Catherine, who had settled comfortably onto the sofa, answered before Marley could. No, we broke up because she was distant. Now I understand why. She looked at Marley with a gentle smile. You couldn't be yourself with me. I couldn't be myself with anyone, Marley admitted, smoothing the lace fabric of her dress against her knees as she sat down. Until now. Her brother cleared his throat. So, you're a woman? Full-time? Not yet, Marley replied. But I will be. I'm taking steps. Today was supposed to be private practice, so to speak. The dress is lovely, her mother offered unexpectedly, her initial shock apparently giving way to something else. A tentative acceptance, perhaps. Thank you. Marley felt tears threatening. It's vintage. I found it at that little shop downtown. And those shoes, Catherine added with a grin. Abraham always tripped over everything, but you move in those heels like you were born to wear them. Practice, Marley admitted with a small laugh. Lots of practice. Her father, who had remained mostly silent, finally spoke again. I don't understand this. At all. But I've never seen you look so... at peace. It was true. Even amid the anxiety of this unexpected coming out, Marley felt a profound sense of rightness, of authenticity, that she had never experienced as Abraham. Will you still come to dinner? Her mother asked. For your father's birthday? Marley hesitated, looking down at her outfit. As you are, her father added quietly, surprising everyone. If this is who you are, then this is who should come to dinner. The tears that had been threatening finally spilled over. I would need to change into something more appropriate for a restaurant. This is a bit much for public. But yes, I'll come as Marley. Her brother, who had been processing silently, suddenly stood up. I have questions. A lot of questions. But they can wait. Right now, I just want to know. Are you happier like this? Yes, Marley answered without hesitation. Infinitely. Then that's what matters, he said with a shrug, as if it were the simplest thing in the world. Catherine had been watching the family interaction with interest. Now she leaned forward. You know, I always felt like there was something you weren't telling me. Now it all makes sense. The secretiveness, the emotional walls, everything. I'm sorry, Marley said sincerely. I wasn't ready to tell myself, let alone anyone else. No apologies needed, Catherine replied. We all have our journeys. She paused, then added with a playful grin. Though I must say, your fashion sense has improved dramatically. Those vintage floral dresses in your closet that I assumed were for some mysterious woman? Way better than the khakis you used to wear. The laughter that followed broke the last of the tension. Not everything was resolved. There would be many more conversations, explanations, adjustments. But in that moment, the simple act of being seen and not rejected felt like an unexpected gift. "Give me 30 minutes to change," Marley said, rising from her seat with elegance, the white lace dress flowing around her. "I have a navy blue dress that would be perfect for dinner." As she turned to head upstairs, her mother called after her. "Marley?" She paused, still getting used to hearing her true name spoken aloud by family. "The blonde suits you. It always did, even when you were little." Something about those words, the recognition that this wasn't just a sudden transformation, but the emergence of something that had always been there, filled Marley with profound gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, and continued up the stairs, each step in her baby blue kitten heels feeling like a step toward home. The restaurant buzzed with evening activity as the hostess led them to their reserved table. Marley had changed into a knee-length navy blue dress with simple lines and modest neckline, paired with pearl earrings that complemented the necklace she had decided to keep wearing. Her blonde hair was pulled back into a neat chignon, and she had reapplied her makeup with a lighter touch, appropriate for the upscale but not formal restaurant. As they walked through the dining room, Marley felt eyes turn toward her, but not with the judgment or mockery she had feared. If anything, the glances seemed appreciative or merely curious. A woman in a beautiful dress walking with her family. "Your table, Mrs. Harrington," the hostess said to her mother, gesturing to a round table by the window. Then, noticing Marley, she added, "You and your daughter look lovely tonight." The words sent a warm rush through Marley's chest. Her mother, surprisingly, didn't correct the hostess. Instead, she smiled and thanked her as they all took their seats.
"That's going to take some getting used to,"
her father muttered, but without hostility. "For all of us," Marley agreed, unfolding her napkin and placing it in her lap with a grace that felt natural rather than practiced. "Including me." Catherine, who had been invited to join them for dinner despite the circumstances, leaned over to whisper, "You realize you're turning heads, right? That couple by the bar hasn't stopped staring since we walked in." Marley felt a flicker of anxiety. "Because they can tell? Because you look fantastic in that dress," Catherine corrected with a wink.
"The navy brings out the blue in your eyes."
The waiter approached, distributing menus and reciting the evening's specials with practiced efficiency. When he asked for drink orders, he addressed Marley directly without hesitation or confusion, another small affirmation that sent ripples of validation through her. "White wine, please," she requested, her voice pitched in its newly practiced register. Not falsetto, but softer and more melodic than Abraham's baritone had been. Her brother raised an eyebrow. "Since when do you drink wine? You were always a bourbon guy." "I've always preferred wine," Marley replied honestly. "Bourbon was part of the act." Her father, who had ordered bourbon himself, looked at her with new understanding. How much of Abraham was an act? The question hung in the air, weighty and profound. "Not everything," Marley said carefully. "The core, the values, the memories, the love for family, that's all real. But the packaging, the presentation, that was a costume I wore because I thought I had to." Her mother reached across the table and, in a gesture that brought fresh tears to Marley's eyes, took her hand. "Well, this packaging suits you better, though I admit, I have 1,000 questions." "Ask them," Marley encouraged. "I'd rather have honest questions than uncomfortable silence." As their drinks arrived, the questions began flowing, tentative at first, then with increasing openness. How long had she known? Always, on some level. Was she planning surgery? Yes, eventually. Would she date men now? She wasn't sure. She had always been attracted to women, though she was open to discovering more about herself. Through it all, Catherine observed with the perspective of someone seeing a former partner in an entirely new light. "You know what's funny?" she interjected during a lull in the conversation. "So many things make sense now, like how you always wanted the lights off during intimacy." "Catherine!" Marley's mother exclaimed, glancing around to see if anyone had overheard. "What? We're all adults here," Catherine replied unapologetically. "And it's important for you to understand, this isn't a phase or a costume. This is who she's always been." Her father, who had been listening more than speaking, finally offered, "I remember when you were about 6. Your mother bought you a toy truck for your birthday, and you looked so disappointed. Not ungrateful, just sad. The next day, I found you playing with your cousin's doll when you thought no one was watching." Marley hadn't expected this memory. "You saw that?" "I did, and I told myself it was normal curiosity, but there were other signs over the years, weren't there? And we just ignored them, or discouraged them." "You did what most parents would have done," Marley assured him, touched by his recollection. "You didn't know. Neither did I, really. Not in words I could express." Their entrees arrived, momentarily pausing the conversation. Marley had ordered the salmon, and as she took her first bite, she realized she was genuinely hungry. The anxiety that had so often accompanied meals with family had diminished, replaced by a surreal but welcome sense of finally being present in her own life.
"So," her brother said, between bites of steak, "do we call you Marley all the time now, even around relatives who don't know yet?"
It was a practical question that Marley hadn't fully considered. "I'd prefer Marley always, but I understand there might be situations where that's complicated. We can navigate those as they come." "Your grandmother might have a heart attack," her mother mused, referring to her husband's elderly mother. Though she did always say she wished she had a granddaughter. "Be careful what you wish for," Catherine quipped, and they all laughed, the sound of their shared humor feeling like the most normal thing in the world. As dinner progressed, Marley noticed something remarkable. The conversation began to drift away from her identity and toward ordinary family topics: her father's work, her brother's new apartment, an upcoming family reunion. She wasn't being treated as a curiosity or a problem to solve, but simply as another member of the family, a daughter, a sister, an ex-girlfriend, participating in the regular flow of life. When dessert menus were presented, her father, who had been quietly observant for much of the meal, suddenly raised his glass. "I'd like to propose a toast," he announced. "To my birthday, yes, but more importantly, to family, to honesty, and to Marley." Her mother and brother raised their glasses immediately. Catherine followed suit, a smile of genuine warmth on her face. "To Marley," they echoed, and in that moment, surrounded by the gentle clink of glasses and the soft glow of the restaurant's lighting, she felt a piece of herself that had been adrift for decades finally come home. The summer heat beat down on the pavement as Marley stood in line at the local coffee shop, her blonde hair swept into a ponytail to combat the humidity. 3 months had passed since that unexpected family dinner. 3 months of gradual but steady transition from living part-time as Marley to embracing her identity fully. She wore a simple sundress in a soft coral shade, flat sandals that showcased her recently pedicured toes, and minimal makeup, just enough to highlight her features without feeling excessive for a casual coffee run. The pearl necklace remained a staple, now paired with simple pearl studs instead of the jade earrings.
"Next customer, please,"
called the barista, a young woman with brightly colored hair who had served Marley many times before, both as Abraham and now as herself. "Good morning," Marley greeted her. "Medium latte, please." The barista smiled in recognition. "Coming right up. Name for the order?" "Marley." "That's a beautiful name," the barista commented as she scribbled on the cup. "It suits you." It was these small moments of affirmation from strangers that still caught Marley by surprise. The casual acceptance, the lack of double takes or confused stares. "Thank you," she replied, handing over her payment. "I chose it myself." The barista's smile widened with understanding. "The best names usually are self-chosen. I'll call you when it's ready." As Marley stepped aside to wait, she noticed a familiar figure entering the coffee shop. David, a colleague from the architecture firm where she still worked. He had been one of the first people at work she had come out to, his reaction a mixture of surprise and immediate support that had helped ease her anxiety about transitioning professionally.
"Marley!"
he called out, waving as he spotted her.
"I thought that might be you. The office misses you."
She had taken a 2-week leave to focus on legal name change proceedings and to give the firm time to update their records and communicate with clients.
"I'll be back Monday," she assured him.
"How's the Peterson project going?"
"On schedule, surprisingly,"
David replied, then lowered his voice.
"Though Peters keeps asking when Abraham will be back to oversee the final drawings. I've reminded him twice now about your transition."
Marley sighed.
"Some clients will take longer to adjust. As long as the work remains solid, that's what matters."
"Absolutely. And speaking of work, the whole team is impressed with how you're handling everything. Changing your name, your appearance, dealing with all the administrative hurdles, all while keeping your projects on track. It helps that the firm has been so supportive," Marley acknowledged. "I was terrified of losing my job." David shook his head.
"Your talent is what matters. Besides, Peterson's casual sexism aside, most clients have been fine. That corporate VP even said she was looking forward to working with another woman in the field."
"Latte for Marley!" the barista called out. Marley excused herself to retrieve her drink, conscious of the way her sundress swished gently around her knees as she walked. Movements that had once required careful thought were becoming increasingly natural. When she returned, David had ordered his own coffee and was checking his phone.
"By the way,"
he said, looking up,
"there's an office happy hour next Friday to welcome Sasha,
the new associate. It would be a perfect way to ease back in socially, if you're comfortable with that." Marley considered the invitation. She had been gradually expanding her comfort zone. First family, then close friends, now colleagues. "I think I'd like that," she decided. "Thanks for the heads up." "Great. Oh, and the coral color? Really works with your complexion. My wife would approve. She's always saying I need more color in my wardrobe." The casual compliment, delivered without awkwardness or excessive attention, felt wonderfully ordinary. This was what she had hoped for, to be seen as a woman who happened to be transgender, rather than being defined solely by her transition. "Give her my thanks for the fashion validation," Marley replied with a laugh. "I'm still finding my style."
"Well, whatever you're doing is working,"
David assured her, then glanced at his watch.
"I should get going. Client meeting in 20. But it's good to see you, Marley. Monday will be easier than you think.
After David left, Marley found a small table by the window, sipping her latte and watching the summer morning unfold outside. Her phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, who had, somewhat surprisingly, become a close friend and ally during these months of transition. Lunch today? I need your opinion on a dress for this wedding I'm attending. Who knew you'd become my fashion consultant? Marley smiled, typing a quick response. 1 p.m. works. And I'm hardly qualified for fashion consulting. I'm still learning myself. You've got better taste than most women I know, came Catherine's immediate reply. The student has become the master. It was strange and wonderful how their relationship had evolved. The romantic connection was gone, replaced by a friendship built on honesty that had never been possible before. Catherine had even set up a small gathering to introduce Marley to her friend group, a gesture of inclusion that had touched her deeply. As Marley finished her coffee, her phone buzzed again, this time with a reminder about her voice therapy appointment that afternoon. Another step in the journey, another piece of the puzzle falling into place. She gathered her things, dropped her empty cup in the recycling bin, and stepped out into the summer heat, her coral sundress catching a brief breeze. A man held the door for her with a casual, "After you, ma'am." The simple courtesy causing a small bloom of validation in her chest. These moments, being recognized as herself without question or hesitation, still felt like tiny miracles. She knew there would be challenges ahead. Not everyone would be accepting. The world wasn't uniformly kind to women like her. But for now, on this bright summer morning, Marley walked with confidence, her blonde ponytail swinging gently with each step, feeling more at home in her skin than she ever had in 37 years of life. The autumn leaves crunched beneath Marley's boots as she made her way down the tree-lined street toward her parents' home. The burgundy sweater dress she wore complemented the fall colors, and she had paired it with brown knee-high boots and a casual gold necklace that had replaced the pearls for today's family gathering. 6 months had passed since that unexpected coming out. 6 months of hormone therapy, voice training, legal name changes, and the countless small adjustments that came with living authentically. Her face had softened, her body gradually reshaping itself, her blonde hair now falling well past her shoulders in natural waves. She balanced a homemade apple pie in one hand, her grandmother's recipe, something Abraham had never attempted to make but that Marley had mastered over several practice sessions. With her free hand, she rang the doorbell, hearing the familiar chatter of family voices inside. Her mother opened the door, her face lighting up. "Marley, you're right on time." She embraced her daughter carefully, mindful of the pie. "Is that Grandma's recipe? It smells wonderful." "I followed it exactly," Marley assured her, stepping inside the warm house. "Though I think I got a bit aggressive with the cinnamon." "Knowing your grandmother, she probably did too and just never admitted it," her mother replied with a wink, taking the pie. "Everyone's in the living room. Your Aunt Caroline just arrived." Aunt Caroline, her father's sister, who had been traveling abroad when Marley first came out to the family. This would be their first meeting since the transition. Taking a deep breath, Marley removed her coat, smoothed the burgundy sweater dress, and touched her hair briefly in a gesture that had become habitual when she was nervous. The living room fell quiet as she entered. Her father and brother, now comfortable with her identity, greeted her normally. Her Uncle Robert and his wife nodded politely. They had been informed, but were still clearly adjusting. And then there was Aunt Caroline, rising from her seat with an expression Marley couldn't immediately read. "Well," Caroline said, approaching slowly. When they told me, I hardly believed it. But looking at you now... She paused, examining Marley's face closely. You have your grandmother's features. I never noticed it before, but now it's unmistakable. Of all the reactions Marley had anticipated, this comparison to her beloved grandmother hadn't been among them. Really? She asked, emotion making her voice softer than usual. Caroline nodded firmly. The cheekbones, the way you hold yourself. She was elegant without trying, just like you are now. She hesitated, then added, Abraham always seemed uncomfortable in his own body, hunched, hidden. But you stand like someone who's finally found solid ground. The insight was so unexpected and so accurate that Marley felt tears threatening. Thank you, she managed. That means more than you know. Caroline embraced her then, a proper hug that eliminated any doubt about her acceptance. Now, she said briskly as she pulled away, your mother tells me you baked Elizabeth's apple pie.
That's brave of you. She guarded that recipe like a state secret.
The tension broken, conversation resumed, flowing more naturally as family members asked about Marley's work, her apartment renovation, the mundane details of ordinary life. The focus wasn't on her transition, but on her as a person, which was exactly what she had hoped for. During dinner, seated between her brother and uncle at the large dining table, Marley found herself engaged in a debate about architectural styles, familiar professional territory where her expertise remained unchanged despite everything else that had shifted in her life. The problem with modern minimalism, she explained, gesturing with her fork, is that it often sacrifices warmth for aesthetic. Buildings should invite people in, not intimidate them.
Exactly what Abraham always said,
her uncle noted, then flushed slightly. I mean, Marley, sorry. It's all right, she assured him. And yes, my views on architecture haven't changed. Some things are constant. Her brother chimed in. Though your presentation style has improved. That pitch you helped me prepare for my business class? The professor said it showed remarkable attention to human-centered design. I always had those instincts, Marley reflected. I just felt I needed to suppress them to be taken seriously as Abraham. There's a freedom now in bringing my whole perspective to my work. After dinner, as family members dispersed throughout the house, Marley found herself in the kitchen with her father, helping to load the dishwasher, a routine they had shared for years, regardless of names or identities. Your aunt was right, he said quietly, handing her a rinsed plate. You do look like your grandmother. It's in the way you move, too. Marley placed the plate carefully in the dishwasher rack. I wish she could have known me as Marley. I think she would have been your biggest supporter, her father replied, surprising her. She never did care much for convention. Used to scandalize the neighborhood in the 50s by wearing pants when all the other women were still in dresses. The image made Marley smile. A rebel ahead of her time. Like someone else I know, her father added, with a gentle nudge to her shoulder. I'm proud of you, you know. This hasn't been easy for any of us, but you've handled it with grace and determination. I've had good examples, Marley told him, the simple act of loading dishes together somehow more meaningful than any formal conversation about acceptance could have been. Later, as apple pie was served in the living room, Aunt Caroline reclaimed everyone's attention with stories from her travels, occasionally directing questions to Marley that indicated she was making a genuine effort to know her niece as she truly was. You should come to Paris next spring, Caroline suggested. The architecture would interest you professionally, of course, But it's also a city that celebrates beauty in all its forms. You'd fit right in. The invitation, casual but sincere, touched Marley deeply. It represented a future she hadn't dared imagine during those early days of transition. Ordinary family relationships, travel, professional respect, simple inclusion in the flow of life. "I'd like that," she replied, meaning it. As the evening wound down and family members began departing with hugs and promises to call soon, Marley found herself standing on the porch with her mother, watching the autumn night settle around them. "You seem happy," her mother observed, wrapping a cardigan around herself against the evening chill. "I am," Marley confirmed. "Not every day. There are still challenges. But overall, yes, genuinely happy." "The burgundy was a good choice," her mother added, nodding toward Marley's sweater dress. "Rich colors suit you. Abraham always wore such drab shades." "Abraham was trying to disappear," Marley explained. "I'm trying to be seen." Her mother nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Well, we see you now," she said simply, taking Marley's hand. "And we're getting to know you better every day." As Marley drove home later that night, the taste of apple pie still lingering, she reflected on how far she had come from that afternoon in the white lace dress. The road ahead would have its bumps and detours. There would be difficult people, professional challenges, the ongoing medical aspects of transition. But she was no longer walking that road in uncomfortable shoes that didn't fit, pretending to be someone she wasn't. She was Marley now, in burgundy sweater dresses and blonde hair that caught the streetlights as she drove, in confident strides and genuine smiles, in apple pies and architectural designs that reflected her true perspective. The costume had been put away. The real performance was over. The authenticity of simply being herself, that was the gift she had finally claimed, and that her family had, with surprising grace, learned to honor.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!